Welcome back to Case Closed, Anime Review, episode number 64. This is reviewing the 968th episode of the anime, Kaiju Gomera versus Kamen Yaiba, aka Mass Yaiba. Conclusion. Yep. Now, this episode is pretty much a filler episode. Well, mostly a TV original. And, in case you're wondering, there's one particular plot point that is never technically wrapped up with this episode because unknown the reason for it. Also, despite the fact that Richard Moore is in the episode, he doesn't really appear. I mean, he's absent for almost the entire episode until the last, 5 minutes. Episode has pretty much Conan and Harley just go to the hospital visiting the supposed bomber. They never confirm it's actually the actual guy because he doesn't know anything. So he escapes from the hospital to go see his brother, who apparently has got a limp and he is left-handed. So Conan and him goes pretty much follow him nonchalantly, though Harley drops his wallet. I think this is Harley's wallet. They never confirm it. Yeah, this episode is quite bizarre. It's like stuff is actually set up okay, and there's no payoff at all. I mean, there's barely anything here. Yeah, you just see a wall on the floor. Is it Conan's? Is it Harley's? It's suspected it's Harley's. Never officially confirmed. He's waved the wall around, but nope, follows him here. Somehow, and somehow he has a brother. Something the last episode never mentioned at all. And it's kind of okay, this episode's got great animation, but it's kind of wow, the writing is all over the place this episode. Stuff it just brought up completely out of the blue. Also, the whole thing with the serial bombing thing. Yeah, I'll get to my final thoughts on this arc and how really odd this arc has been. Okay, so they discovered that there's 2 more bombs underneath 2 balloons, a Gomera and Mass Yaiba balloons. Yep. Oh, and Rand and Katja basically are with the G Detective League. Characters who appear for 2 scenes. Amy herself, who does appear in the episode, gets her, Genta, Mitch. Actually, I think Genta gets 1 line of dialogue. Mitch doesn't speak a word at all. Amy gets no dialogue at all. Heck, even Anita. Yes, Anita. You see her briefly a couple times in the episode. Does she get word dialogue in this episode? No. It's kind of a lot of the characters who did get dialogue the first 3 episodes of this arc get nothing. This whole episode. Oh yeah, and the police chief, who is Harley's father. You see him briefly for about 2 scenes. You see him interacting, seeing his office, and meeting with the other detectives in this joint investigation case. Also, Detective Kaito doesn't get much to do in this episode. My gosh, he does virtually almost nothing. It's all Conan and Harley, who does all the legwork. Yeah, they're just sitting in his office. You see the chipmunk briefly for a cameo. Yes, a cameo. Yes, the chipmunk, who's constantly with this detective, and it makes a very brief appearance. He just pops up briefly, top of the shoulder, and that's all you see of the character. Yep. And, the bomber guy, the alleged bomber guy, basically reads a paper about the bombings. He hides under his sheets for some strange reason. That's when he goes to visit his brother. Yeah, then they chase him throughout, I'd say, about 6 blocks. They chase him for a little while until they come across the bridge. And then, they actually confront him. They actually get him to collapse. And his brother, somehow, the one who was bandaged, yeah, somehow he caught up to them. I'm when the heck did that happen? Also, did Harley get away from him at some point? Yeah, that's something that's never explained in this episode. Of course, talk about that later. And they find out the bombs, and they get to the bombs. They find out that they found the first bomb. Apparently, Richard Moore finds the bomb really easily. They split up and look for it, and he finds it. And basically, him, the detective from Kaito, I kind of forgot his name. I think his name was Ajin, I think his name is. And Okta basically go upstairs to the 58th floor to try to find out what the other bomb is, and it turns out it's actually on the stage. Yep, and and Rand is the one who basically helped disable it. The Junior Detective League go off in a room. They're seen turn off their cell phones, and then the next scene, walking to the elevator for a handshake event with the two stars of the Gomera versus Yaiba movie. Well, the suit people in suits. I don't know if they actually, because you don't really see it. You see like people gather on something by some elevator. Yeah, it's not explicitly clear, and like they find the bomb and disable it pretty quickly. Look how they used the video phone. I thought that was really cool, using the video on the phone basically to see that they got the right thing. And Conan is the one somehow figures this out. Yeah, this is by far. Yeah, This is by far not the first time Conan's disabled a bomb. He's disabled a few bombs over the course of the series, but it's the first time I could think of he's done it in a filler episode. Last time he did it was actually a couple times in canon episodes, but that was Metropolitan Police love story episodes where he's just disabling a bomb. Heck, he even did it in a movie. Yes, in the second, I believe it was in the first or second film, he actually helped disable an actual bomb in like the first couple movies. This film, this episode is just wow. Okay, so they disabled the bomb. Of course, Kachen basically has a sewing kit, so use scissors, disable thing, and they try to use like a screwdriver. Like she doesn't have a screwdriver, so she takes her hairpin that she's had the entire four-parter, takes out the Yaiba thing, and unscrews the canister, snaps it, and the bomb's disabled. Everybody celebrates, and then they go to the credits, and then comes back. We see like a teaser for the crossover, which doesn't even feature Yaiba at all. And Conan's like, "Oh, they destroyed a new building." That's the episode. Wow. Okay. It's kind of like, you get to this episode, the first two episodes had great writing with it, and I love the development of the characters. This episode felt very last minute, rushed, like, oh my gosh, this episode has so much stuff unexplained. Like, how did Harley get away from the other guy? Okay, where did the whole brother thing come from? And let's see, what else? The Junior Detective League getting almost nothing to do in this episode. Almost no dialogue. We see this alleged handshake event behind some fogged up mirror. Okay, who's the one who told her about placing those bombs there? Yeah, who the actual bomber is, they don't confirm who the bomber is. We tease this for the past several episodes, trying to figure out who the bomber is. Think it's this guy, but he never confirms he's actually the bomber at all. And supposedly they're arrested off screen because their arrest is never mentioned. I'm like, okay, what's the whole point of this episode? This episode felt very much last minute. Like, oh my gosh, we had to do a dramatic conclusion. It's kind of like this episode was probably meant to be attached to the last 10 minutes, or last 5 or 10 minutes for the last week's episode, but they had to expand it to this much, do all this padding in this episode. Like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, I had not come across an episode where it has so many plot holes in it in a long time when it comes to series. I had not come across this as I was bench watching a series last year. Like, oh my gosh. Like, so much of it is left unexplained. Like, some plot threads are not even wrapped. Now, when you get to the last part, you're expecting, every single plot thread that's set up in part 1 get wrapped up by part 4. And in this one, we never reveal who the bomber is, or why the heck he was actually doing this. Yeah, this by far was never explained. Also, who the heck was the camera guy? Yeah, the camera thing. We had this video footage happen in the last week's episode, and barely gets touched on this episode. It's like they completely forgot about it. It's kind of like we had these good set of writers in this episode, and in this episode, we had a different writer come in and just... Apparently, he didn't know the actual plot. He just simply was guessing. That's what it seems like you watch this episode, that the writer of this one was guessing what the heck the plot was, and just makes stuff up as he goes. And, the bomb thing was very interesting. I liked what they dealt with it. But, my gosh, so much stuff in this episode left completely unexplained. Now, the whole thing with Conan knowing how to disable a bomb, that's true to the series canon. So that part I don't have a problem with. Also, like, okay, so that was not much of a problem in this episode. The fact that they established that Kacchin had a sewing kit. Yeah, that's been established for a long time, so that's not much of a problem. The hairpin thing, that has been there since part 1 of this arc. Her breaking it in order to basically make it to a screwdriver, that was interesting. I don't know if she got a replacement or not. Yeah, that's something that's never explained. Also, how the heck did the MC guy get there so quickly? How did he get there before detectives did? That's one of the many things about this episode that was never explained. Like, okay, we see briefly this MC guy. Also, there's a funny bit in this episode where, like, Harley is commenting and Kacchin is like, you look great in that outfit. And apparently she's embarrassed by it. And, yeah. This episode was not very good. Like, yeah, it was pretty bad. It's not a terrible episode per se. It's just that we built all this up for this conclusion, and this episode is so disappointing and filled with plot holes. But at least gotta admit, they still have good timing with the comedy. Mm-hmm. Yes. But I think that if you look at the characters in this episode, with the exception of Conan, who... Here's kind of the strange thing about this episode. The characters of this episode don't get much to do. They're based upon assumptions. Yeah, Conan, the main character of the series, doesn't do much of anything. At all. I mean, what's his contribution to this episode? Let's see. Chasing down a bomber. Disabling a bomb. That's it. That's pretty much all he does. Harley does actually a little bit more than he does, which is kind of surprising. Like, he makes some phone calls, help to save the bomb. Yeah, it's kind of like you watch this episode and you kind of like, man, like every single character from this episode got wasted. They got pretty much almost nothing to do. Like, this episode was so rushed. Like, at least the animation, at least the people who made the animation this episode actually gave a damn to make this episode actually make it look good. At least the episode looks good. The weakness of this episode is the writing. Yes, the writing is the weakest point of this episode. Like, because for the past like 5 or 6 episodes, I'd say prior to this one, we had very good writing. The writing was so improving, and like this has been improving since like a couple arcs back. It's like the writing is so much improved for this series, and then like we're going back to this stupid garbage of basically a rushed script. Yes, it's kind of felt as though this was probably meant to be part of a movie or whatever, even though they teased the whole movie thing. Yeah. But yeah, Richard Moore, one of the starring characters of the series, only appears in this episode for 5 minutes. He contributes nothing. Like, the only thing he contributes to the whole episode is the fact he finds a bomb. That's it. Like, you first see him in the car with Obada and the detective from Kaiju talking, and the next time we see him, he's helping disable a bomb. Like, he finds a bomb, and the next time we see him, he's walking through a crowd. By the way, how many lines of dialogue does he get this whole episode? Usually gets, like, a good lot. This episode seems like he got about 3 lines of dialogue the entire episode. I'm like, seriously, he's basically one of the main characters. He's one of the main trio of characters who appears almost the entire series, and he doesn't get much dialogue. I mean, if you want to think of a character that gets the most dialogue, it's probably Harley. Yeah, he gets like the most dialogue, and he gets more dialogue than the main character, which I think is kind of dumb. The fact it's like that. Like, okay, Conan gets almost like up until the last bit, it's like he contributes not that much this episode. Like, wow. Like, okay, then why have the Detective Boys even here for? We have this audition for Kacchin's part. We see her wearing the outfit, but we don't get a chance to see what it is because the bomb threat had interfered. Yes. That's the only problem. That's probably the reason why they're going to take a 2-week break, because of how rushed this episode was. That's my personal guess. I mean, I looked up online. Apparently the next episode's not going to air for like about 3 weeks. Not until 3 weeks from now. Probably not until like the third week of February when the next episode comes out. That's probably also when when the next chapter gets released for the manga for Case Closed. Yep. So not that good of an episode. Yes, not that good. Aside from the animation, I still love the opening title sequence. I think it's amazing. I hope they keep this for the canon episodes, especially when uh, the Kaito Kid comes back. I really hope that. Yeah, that's the thing about the Kaito Kid. He's got one story arc left from Case Closed and not been adapted yet, and I don't think it's the very next arc per se. I think it's like a couple arcs from the most recent arc they adapted, which was the Black Bunny Club arc. Yes, that's a strange thing. I have no idea when they're going to do another canon episode because it's been like a good almost 10 episodes, seems like, since the last time they did a canon episode. I hope they do one soon. They'll probably save it for some certain point. I don't know. Yeah. But I do like the fact that in the most recent chapter they released for the series, that we actually can see sort of the return of the Black organization. It's like this group has not been active in like a long time. I think like the last known active thing they did was having Vermouth basically under the skies as a waitress, and Bourbon. His most recent appearance in the series was in the case they adapted for the series. That was his most recent appearance he made in the actual manga. And it's kind of like, wow, it's kind of like, as of right now, like a lot of the characters who've been prominent in this series have been virtually almost dropped off and just basically almost forgotten about. Yeah, maybe they have something planned in the future. Maybe the next arc is will finally do something with the Black Organization. Who knows? Yep. So that's it for this particular review. I'm gonna do one more review. Like I don't think I'm gonna get a chance to do Rama Half, but there's a review I wanted to do, a figure review. Yep, as a figure I'm going to review, you'll find out next. Okay, to the next view. Bye.